What's up, everybody? We back again. We got Saturday football again. Pretty much a whole slate of Saturday football. So you will see me and Chad either tomorrow morning or tonight as well. Possibly. We're gonna schedule it. But I got Big Mike Raider here to talk about this Raiders game. Raiders plus 2.5 at Pitt. It's going to be very windy, very cold. It's freezing up here in the Northeast right now. Over under set at 38. The Raiders money line is at plus 124. I'm on the Raiders in this one. How about you, Mike?
Yeah, I'm going with the Raiders, but I do have some like apprehensions on going with that because
Me too.
you see the tale of two teams with the Raiders. You saw it last week at the Patriots. They were up 14 and gave up another lead, which they've been doing all season. I do want to get into the Steelers defense. Is really a common misconception that the Steelers have this elite defense that everybody talks about year after year, but this year is just not the case. I'm doing some comparison of numbers. The Steelers passing yards allowed is 238 versus the Raiders 244. That's like at the bottom half of the league. Sacks, believe it or not, the Steelers are at the bottom of the league in sacks. I thought when I was going into these numbers, I'm thinking that the Steelers are up there at the top of the league with sacks. They're actually 23rd in the league with 29 sacks. That's not
Yeah,
that much.
with the guys that they have, you would think that. You know what I mean? If you're not
Right.
paying attention to the Steelers all season, definitely, I can
Right.
see it.
Yeah. And that's one thing I haven't been paying attention to the Steelers most of the season. So looking at those numbers was like, oh wow, this is kind of a shock to me. However, the Steelers do have a good rushing attack, stopping the defensive rushing attack where they only allow 109 yards per game, which is seventh in the league, and they are very opportunistic as far as uh, getting interceptions. They're 14. They have 14 this season, which is second in the league. And that's two things that the Raiders want to do. They want to get the ball to Devontae Adams, and they want to run the ball. Seems like these days, primarily, they want to get Josh Jacobs involved. So if they stop Josh Jacobs, then it's on Carr to kind of get the game going. And if that's the case, Derek Carr, he likes to make mistakes, particularly in the red zone or in plus territory. So if I was to look at a prop bet, I would say mark it down for at least Derek Carr to throw one interception in this game. And I would that would be one thing that I like looking at for sure. That's like, if you add on some other things, I like Derek Carr to at least throw one interception just because the Steelers are so opportunistic on defense with interceptions.
It's juiced up at minus 135 on BetMGM and DraftKings. That's the best value
Yeah.
you're getting there. The books probably agree with you there because that's correct. If they are able to take Josh Jacobs out of the game a little bit and you're putting the ball in Derek Carr's hands a little too much, that is a very opportunistic defense that can't take advantage of that. Derek Carr's been prone to throw some interceptions, some bad interceptions at times. So I could
Yep.
definitely see that. I'm glad you brought up his red zone struggles too, because that's going to be one of my favorite bets. We don't have the line out for this one yet for field goal kickers, but I think Carlson for 2 field goals is going to be a lock, and I think we're going to get a good number on it because of the
Yep.
wind and the weather factor. It's going to be freezing. It's going to be like 9 degrees, 13 degrees. Wind expected from like 20 to 25 in Pittsburgh. So I didn't look like
Yep.
right around the stadium yet. I'm gonna do that tomorrow morning, probably before we finalize the bets. But I think whenever they drop this number, the wind and weather is gonna be factored in a little bit. But
Yep.
listen, the Raiders, I think they're gonna be able to move the ball regardless of the weather. Because I think they are actually going to have success running the ball against this defense. Their defense is pretty good, but Josh Jacobs has been the bread and butter for the Raiders. So they're going to keep going to it
Absolutely.
either way. Another bet that's going to be one of my favorites, I think, that as long as they give us a reasonable number, is Josh Jacobs for rushing attempts. Because that's the thing.
Oh
If
yeah.
they are getting stuffed, you still don't want to go right to Derek Carr. Him getting stuffed might actually result in more rushing attempts because they're going to keep trying to get it and keep developing some play action and making the defense at least respect it, even if they are shutting it down. They
Yep.
didn't put a number up for that yet, but I think I'm going to like it as long as it's a reasonable number. I think I'm going to take that. Field goals, though, the field goal red zone, when you talk about it, the Raiders are 27th in the league in red zone touchdown percentage for a reason. Like you
Yeah.
just said, he struggles down there. And, against this really good run defense, if that's when a good run defense really, balls out is in the red zone because that's when they don't have to worry about taking the top off the defense. They can kind of
Right.
hone in on that run a little bit. So, I think they might be able to shut them down in the red zone a little bit. They're eighth in the league in defensive red zone touchdown percentage already as it is anyway. So it's a perfect matchup for that. perfect matchup for some field goals. And that's kind of how all Steelers games go the past couple of years.
Yeah,
Both teams
yeah,
just trading field goals and things like that. So I think I probably will like the number for the Steelers side as well.
yeah. I mean, that was something I look at. Carlson for field goals is almost a bread and butter kind of bet if you're doing anything Raiders these days.
And field goals against the Steelers,
Yeah,
same difference. It's the perfect matchup. Yep.
yep, exactly. And I agree with you with the field goals, like kind of a field goal contest. And kind of tie that back in with the over under 38.5. I'm definitely going under for this game. The game is going to be there's going to be some wind involved. It's going to be 10 degrees. It's going to be a wind chill of a negative wind chill. So those kind of elements say run the ball, and on the flip side with defense, I'll tell you right now, the colder it gets, the harder it is to want to get yourself motivated to go knock out somebody and kind of pound the ball, as a defense, try to make tackles. So by the fourth quarter, you got Josh Jacobs. He might break for a 10-yard run, a big run at the end to kind of break it loose. So yeah, I do like that idea what you're saying with Josh Jacobs. Just keep pounding him.
Yeah, no, and one thing about I do agree with your underpick because if both teams are running the ball, it's going to kill clock, things like that as well. The
Yep.
one thing is the Steelers, they've been bad at running the ball all season. The Raiders are a little bit better defending the run than they are the pass. So if it is super windy, Kenny Pickett, I don't, correct me if I'm wrong, if you think I'm wrong here, but I don't think he has like the strongest arm. You know what I mean? It's not like some Josh Allen.
No.
It's not like Josh Allen going out there where I'm not worried about the wind at all. He's going to rip
Yep.
it right through the wind. Kenny Pickett, I know he grew up here in Jersey. He was in Pitt for college. So
Yep.
he's been through weather games. He can handle that part of it. I'm not
Yeah.
disagreeing with that. But if it's that windy where it's going to be 20, 25 and like that in the stadium as well, that could have some effect. Now, I know people are thinking, oh, that probably will have some effect on the field goal props that you just mentioned too. But I will
Yeah.
remind you, it was pretty windy last night. The only I had somebody that was at MetLife for that game. The only thing he texted me before the game was, "It's windy as shit, man." And we still saw 5 field goals made in that game.
There you go.
I think that the Raiders will get close enough, and the Steelers will be able to get close enough too on a couple drives where the field goal is like a 35-yarder, which is doable in the wind. They just have to adjust for which way the wind's going. These kickers are pros. They kick in it all the time too. Maybe not Carlson, more West Coast games and stuff like that. But I think he'll be able to rip it through. I think they'll have enough opportunities where even if he misses one because of the wind, he might go 2 for 3 or something like that.
I can see that. And also with the over under being at 38.5, the Raiders defense, I know that they're like one of the bottoms of the league as far as yards per play. But the Raiders are 6th in the league the last 3 games in yards per play. They're only giving up 5 yards per play the last 3 games, and getting they're only allowing like 17 points per game the last 3 games. So you got the Raiders, it seems to be that they're kind of finding their groove on defense. So playing a team like the Steelers, who all season they've been kind of struggling offensively, being efficient. That's something that to look at. Kind of keeping that game low scoring and things like that, because the Raiders are actually playing decent defense the last few games.
Yeah, and that's one of the reasons I like the Raiders here in this game. Now, like everything on the surface points towards the Steelers winning this game, not in like dominating fashion, but like the matchups kind of make sense for the Steelers. The fact that
Yeah.
they're at home in this type of weather that most of their players are used to because they've been playing in Pitt for a year, 2, 3, 4 years. The Raiders coming from the West, coming from Vegas, they're not dealing with stuff like this as much. Everything kind of points toward the Steelers being more comfortable and being able to sneak out a win here. But I just feel like the Steelers have been playing over their talent level the past few weeks, and the Raiders have been finally creeping up to where their talent level actually was the whole season. So I feel like the Raiders are moving in the right direction, and this is a good matchup against a team that, the Steelers are getting some love because they've been playing a little better than their talent really perceives, and they're under a field goal dogs on the road. So the books obviously agree that the Raiders deserve some respect here in this spot. I think they're going to win outright. I took that on our early pick show.
Yeah, and you know what? People really do have to be careful as far as trying to follow a narrative. Now, rest in peace to Franco Harris. It was a devastating loss to the NFL community. But a lot of people like, oh yeah, the Steelers, they can't lose at home now. They're, Franco Harris, he just passed away, and they're going to do it for Franco. I will remind people that the Raiders lost their last game in Oakland. So narratives really doesn't matter. You can really look at a narrative and be like, hey, the team is going to rally around that. And, if you're really a conspiracy type of person, you can be like, oh, Steelers got this Lock City. They're going to win this and that. And yeah, that the NFL doesn't care about your narrative, so be careful with that one. I would say if you're looking at that kind of stuff, as far as like putting money on it, I'm looking at the percentages of money, like of putting in for each team. The Raiders it's about 50-50 right now. So it's not even leaning towards one way. So if you're going to go that route, just go look at the numbers and look at, what was actually going on in the game and be like, the Raiders actually have like a slight advantage in this game. And like you said, the Steelers aren't playing to what their record indicates, basically.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. That's a great point. It doesn't always happen that way. It sounds good leading up to the game. It's like, oh yeah, they got to do it for Franco Harris now. RIP to Franco Harris, one of the best. He obviously Hall of Famer, NFL legend there. But you're 100% right. See, Chad brought that up when I brought it up on the early pick show. We were doing that right after the news broke, pretty much. Not like right after, but around the same time. So Chad mentioned that, and if you do want to go the conspiracy route, just know that it can go both ways. It can go the way of like, yeah, the Steelers are going to win this now for Franco Harris, or it can go in the way of like, yeah, Franco Harris just passed away. That kind of shits on Steelers fans. Like Steelers fans are emotional about that. They're feeling that one, right? That hurts. They were big fans. He was a legend there in Pittsburgh. He did a lot for the community. It pulls on the heartstrings. 1, 2, they're doing his ceremony still for his jersey retirement. That was supposed to be this Saturday anyway, because the Immaculate Reception was against the Raiders. They're playing the Raiders. It's the 58th anniversary today as we're recording this, I believe. They could shit if you're going the conspiracy route. It's not like it doesn't make sense to shit on the home fans again after they're going through all those emotions. Now they lose the game too. If you want to go that route, just know they can work it however they want. If we're operating under
that you believe in, right?
If we're operating under the assumption of like, that there's conspiracy involved in it, you don't know which way they're going with that, is all I'm saying. So don't get too caught up in that hype ever, really, unless you really, unless there's something pointing at like which angle they're going to go with in that case.
Right. I felt like I had to be put out there because I've been hearing a lot about the Steelers, the narrative, the Steelers, this is a lock and all this other stuff. And, this is people within our Raider Nation community saying that, the Steelers are going to pull this off because of Franco Harris and everything that's been going on around that. So I just felt the need to kind of address that, even though, you look at the numbers, we're looking at the numbers here. We're looking at gameplay. We're looking at previous, we're making our predictions based on what we've seen in previous games, not anything else. So, I had to put that out there that, we're looking at numbers here.
I'm glad you brought it up because, I'm glad you brought it up. That's a very good point. And I'm riding the Raiders. I mean, despite that, like, did it cross my mind? Yeah. I was like, ooh, a little bit, now there's a little bit more to play for, maybe, since they're doing the ceremony before. But at the end of the day, like, the Steelers were going to show up to play anyway. They're a professional organization with Mike Tomlin at the helm. I mean, that's not something that you're just looking at any game and the Steelers aren't going to show up. So how much more motivation does it really bring? If anything, it would have been better to be playing with him there after doing his ceremony, you would think, with him watching in person right there after the thing, So, I don't want to play. This isn't one that I would play into, I don't think. Me and Chad, we talk about it all the time, and we've called a few upsets, big upsets on like, going down the conspiracy lane of like, nah, this looks set up right here. This is a good, situation. This is a good little okie doke the NFL is pulling. And that's kind of why I like the Raiders too, because like the NFL does pull these little okie dokes on you where like the Steelers, they look like they're in a good spot for this. That's why I like the Raiders. I can't explain it fully from a football standpoint because there is some matchups both ways. But, I just feel like this is the right spot for the Raiders.
Yeah, absolutely. And, to top it off, to kind of end it, right? The first touchdown, right? I do like Najee Harris for a first touchdown here. I think that the Steelers do come out and kind of be emotional at the beginning of the game. Kind of the whole Franco Harris thing. I'm sure they're going to have like a moment of silence and things like that. And they're going to be hyped up. It's a Christmas Eve game at home. It's a lot. Playoffs is still on the line for both of these teams. So I do like the Steelers kind of coming out being, motivated and kind of, hyped up for this. And I do like Najee Harris for the first touchdown in this one.
So it's funny, you just went on your whole spiel about, we're not going down the conspiracy line, and then you hit me with that. And I couldn't help but think, oh, you're going with the same last name guy, huh?
Yeah. I know there's angles to this, man. I'm not saying the game,
I hear you.
There's layers to it.
I'm with you, though. That was just funny. But yeah, you are getting Najee Harris at plus 650 on BetMGM. That's your best value. Plus 550 is your next best bet on FanDuel and DraftKings if you only have those. I think that's a good pick for the first touchdown. I was going to ask you because last time you were on the show, you nailed George Kittle for Thursday Night Football 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
So I was definitely going to come right back to that and see if we can keep the streak going. I know you will. You always usually pick one from both sides, though. So who would be your Raiders guy if they do get on the board for first?
I do like. I mean, this is Josh Jacobs. This is a running game. This is a game that's going to be featured both running backs on both ends. Josh Jacobs. That's all I would go. I wouldn't pick anybody else in this situation. If you're really feeling adventurous, Derek Carr for a sneak. He hasn't done that all season, but the running game is going to be the focus on both ends.
Yeah, I would agree with that. You're getting him at plus 650 also, but on FanDuel, BetMGM is down at plus 500 for him.
Yeah.
So you're getting you're getting plus 650. You're getting higher odds on Josh Jacobs than Najee Harris from FanDuel, which is interesting.
Huh.
You would think Josh Jacobs would be first just because the Raiders have been able to move the ball a little bit more and put more points on the board all season. But I'm glad you brought it up because I was definitely going to ask that too. Anything else you want to add in this game? I definitely like the Josh Jacobs rushing attempts. Najee Harris, I looked at also. That number is up. It's 15.5. He hasn't hit it much this year, and there's some other running backs in that room that take carries a little bit. I know there's other running backs the Raiders use sometimes, but they really go to Josh Jacobs pretty much always.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to go Najee Harris. I'm going to wait for that Josh Jacobs line, and I like the field goals specifically on the Raider side, but I think I'll like the Steelers also. As long as we're getting good numbers on those three bets, that's what I'm going to rip for sure.
Yeah, and shoot, Derek Carr for an interception too. That's he said it earlier. I like that one too. I'm not saying that I want Derek Carr to fail, but it's like the recipe is calling for an interception from Derek Carr.
They can win the game with him throwing a pick. If the Steelers aren't able to move the ball that well, that can happen. I could see that for sure in this game script. So definitely.
Absolutely.
I guess that wraps it up then, right?
Yep, that's it, man.
All right. Well, like I said, stay tuned. Me and Chad will either be here tonight or tomorrow morning before the game start to talk about our best bets for the weekend and lock in those picks. Like I said, all the plays that I really liked here in this, we don't have numbers for yet. So I'm going to confirm that in the morning. Make sure you hit subscribe. Make sure you hit like. Give us a comment. Let us know how you like our picks. Let us know what you're rolling with in this game. And hopefully that weather isn't too much of a factor. But I do think it'll be a run heavy game. A lot of these games all season have been hyped up as weather games, and then they haven't been like too bad. If Mike White was starting that game last night for the Jets, I think they were able to move the ball. The weather wasn't affecting it. It was, they weren't able to move the ball for other reasons. So I think that we might see some points. I do think the under is a good play though for both of these teams on any given day, even if it's in a dome. Steelers, they don't put up a lot of points and they play sneakily good defense. There is ways to take advantage of them though. So
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's all I got on this one. Big Mike, shout out your podcast real quick, and that link will be in the description box. But give a little shout to yourself real quick.
Yeah, so I just kicked off my YouTube page, Big Mike Raider, where I do film breakdown every once in a while, but we do a segment on my show called Raiders Pop Off, and we're starting episode 6 tomorrow. And it's you can just Big Mike, one word, and then Raider on YouTube. You put that in the search, you'll find me. And we're gonna do a tribute to Franco Harris and the rivalry between the Steelers and Raiders, that old school rivalry, and how it kind of started that Pittsburgh Steelers dynasty in the 70s. So we talk a lot of history, a lot of Raiders culture and things like that. So that's kind of my focus. And we kind of get into the numbers too. So if you're into stuff like that, yeah, go ahead and check out Big Mike Raider. We do a lot of that, and we got some more stuff to come later on in the off season as well.
Definitely sounds dope. I'm definitely looking forward to that one. I watched the last one with your brother on it. That was a
Yeah,
good episode too. So yeah, definitely going to be checking out some of that. Guys, go hit subscribe for him. He's been on this channel nailing bets all season long in the Raiders game. He knows what he's talking about with Raiders games, other games as well when you've done them. But specifically, we've brought you on for mostly Raiders games, and you've been killing it all season. So
yeah,
especially if
man.
you're in Raider Nation, go ahead, give him a sub.
Yeah, definitely, man. Appreciate it. Appreciate it.
No doubt. All right, we'll see you next week, bro.
All right, peace.
Peace. Happy betting, everybody.